Okay, I think we should be able to finish up chapter 6 with this video. So we're going to start with our hypodermis. So just as a reminder, we have our epidermis, our epidermis, then dermis, and then down here at the blue layer, that is our hypodermis layer that we're going to focus on right now. Okay, general features of our hypodermis. So our hypodermis has more areolar and adipose or fat tissue than the dermis has. So even more loosely organized type of tissue. This is also where we have our subcutaneous fat. Oh, oops, getting ahead of myself. So our subcutaneous fat, again, used as a energy reservoir. So our triglycerides that are stored in our adipocytes, that's we're able to take those, break them down, and transfer that energy to ADP. That's also where we have thermal insulation using that fat. So just adds as a barrier against heat loss. Another thing about our hypodermis is it's the common site of drug injection. So the larger blood vessels that the hypodermis has is a good target for having injections into a person. And so the specific needle, the hypodermic needle, is specifically going to target those blood vessels. So it's the correct length as well as width of needle in order to target those blood vessels. Okay, so I believe this should be a labeling thing on here, even though I didn't put that on there. Yeah. It should be on your labeling. Anyway, so there's another labeling on your exam. You have your 2 layers of your dermis tissue, your papillary layer, so your little fingers, as well as your reticular layer that is below that. Then here we're just going epidermis, again, our basement membrane in between our epithelial tissue and connective tissue. All of this is dermis, like I said before. And then this fat layer, that's our hypodermis, which is also our common site for drug injections. Oh, oops. There it is. There's your exam labeling page. So, papillary layer, reticular layer, and our hypodermis. Okay, moving on to melanin. So we're going back into our epidermis or epithelial layer of our skin. So, melanin is the most significant factor in skin color. So, it determines what your skin's normal color is. Now, your skin can change color depending on how much blood flow you have or lack thereof, as well as other types of markings that can occur on the skin. So, our melanin is produced by our melanocytes, so one of our skin cell types. It accumulates in the keratinocytes. So those keratinocytes are going to pick up that melanin so it can protect the nucleus, and particularly the DNA that's inside that nucleus. So protecting it from UV damage from the sun. There you go. Okay, so there's 2 forms of it, just determines the type of coloring. So eumelanin, which is your skin one. You also do have pheomelanin, particularly for people who have red hair. So different type of melanin for that one. So difference between people who have darker skin versus lighter skin just is because of how much melanin you have and how it's distributed. So in darker skin people, so here's a keratinocytes, the melanin is distribute all across the cell. Plus, there's a lot more of it. So it gives you a deeper coloring and better protection of the DNA against sun damage. That doesn't mean you shouldn't still wear your sunscreen. Okay, lighter skin people, it's only focused just around your nucleus. So this lighter areas are where you're not going to have that melanin color, and so therefore the skin appears lighter. So really it's just a difference of where did your ancestors come from? Are they closer to the equator where they're more likely to get sun damage? Or are they far away from the equator and need less protection from the sun because you also need that UV radiation to make vitamin D? So here you get plenty of sun to make vitamin D, so let's protect the skin. Upper layers away from the equator, not upper layers, more northern or more southern countries, where you're away from the equator, less sun, not enough sun to not need to protect the cell too much, but you need a little bit more extra vitamin D production with the UV, so you need a little bit more exposure to keep your levels up. Okay, so let's look at a skin sample. So here we have a dark skin sample. Over here we have a light skin sample. We do have some in the laboratory. We just only have a few of them, so just in case you're looking at it, you'd actually be able to see where you have more melanin distributed with your keratinocytes, so you end up with a darker appearance, versus here in the lighter sample, you actually barely can see the melanin, and it's focused just around the nucleus. Melanin, sweat, okay. So you do have other variations that can cause your skin to be different colors. So like I talked about earlier, your level of UV light can determine how tan you get. Other stuff that can cause your skin to change color. So hemoglobin, which is the red pigment in your red blood cells. If you have more blood flow to the skin, your skin becomes red. Carotene, which is found in yellow foods, can actually cause an orange tint to develop because it gets absorbed into your stratocranium and your subcutaneous fat. And so we have cute little baby here, loves his carrots, end up with an orange nose. It's okay, it'll go away. Some colors are used for diagnostic value. So blue skin, cyanosis due to oxygen deficiency, erythema, so increased blood flow, so that was redness, pallor, so paleness due to lack of blood flow, albinism, so this is when the skin does not make the melanin, and so you just don't have the coloring. So not only coloring in skin, but also coloring in your eyes tend to be lacking, and this is caused by genetics. Jaundice, so yellowing of the skin, usually some kind of liver dysfunction. Hematoma, bruising, so get hit with a softball, you're going to end up with a bunch of blood clotted under the skin. It'll also go away eventually. Okay, so this one goes over other skin marking like friction ridges, so we can get our fingerprint. Flexion lines, so those are where you have those deeper connections, so those palm lines. Different freckles and moles. Pay attention for your moles. Make sure they don't change in color, diameter, or your contour, so the shape of it, because when they do, that's a possibility of cancer. We got hemangiomas, which are a type of birthmark, also called a port wine stain. Mikhail Gorbachev, which is the former president of Russia, he actually had one on his forehead. Okay, hair and nails, I could care less, so I'm going to skip that. Nope, Okay, cutaneous glands. So on the study guide, I focus on the sweat glands. Oh, and mammary glands. So let's do that. Okay, so with our sweat glands, we have two types of sweat glands. We have our apocrine and merocrine sweat glands. So our apocrine sweat glands are the ones that produce a different type of sweat. It's not the type of sweat that's going to calm the body down. These are actually inactive until puberty. Excuse me. They're found in the groin, the anal region, the axilla, areola, and beard for men. The ducts lead to nearby hair follicles. The sweat is more of a milky type of sweat. This sweat is released due to stress as well as sexual stimulation. So sometimes when you get stressed and you kind of have this odor, it's because of that type of sweat being released. It's possible that this type of sweat releases pheromone, particularly since those types of sweat glands are inactive until puberty. Unfortunately, we don't have the receptors anymore to respond or detect pheromones. At least humans don't. We might still be able to smell them, and maybe that's why we partially still have them, but we don't have pheromone detectors in our noses anymore. Dogs do. Other animals do as well. Bromidrosis, so that is a bad body odor based on the bacteria that are feeding on that sweat. So, you're outside, you're playing basketball, whatever. Yeah, that's because of that. That sweat that's coming out of there, the bacteria is like, hey, let's eat. Bunch of fatty acids. And so your sweat starts to have a smell to it. Now, it's not the type of stinkiness, again, remembering that these are inactive until puberty. So you know how little kids come inside, they have that little kid smell, or it's like it's always the same thing no matter which kind of little kid it is? That's disagreeable body odor. It's actually a bacterial product that is basically just outside in the air. So, of course, if they're playing outside, it's going to get on their clothes and their hair and everything. And so that produces that outdoor smell that you have in children. So the name for that is geosmin. Okay. That's fine. Okay, your other type of sweat gland is your American sweat glands, and these are going to produce the watery sweat that's going to cool your body down. So water has the ability to absorb a lot of heat, and that allows your body to put the layer of sweat or water on your skin, pulling the heat away and cooling your body down. So homeostasis of your body temperature. So in order to get your sweat to the surface of the skin, so here we have those roots of our sweat glands in the dermal tissue. Here's our epidermis up here. Actually, yeah, all the way here through here. So this is actually dermis and this is epidermis. Forget that real ridgy boundary. Anyway, so there's myoepithelial cells. So myo as in muscle. They'll help to squeeze your product up toward the surface of the skin, how it comes out of your glands. So these myoepithelial cells are actually found also in your apical sweat glands as well. Mammary glands. Okay. Not sure if this is on the study guide, so I'll cover it anyway. So in order to create sweat, particularly the sweat that we're going to help cool off the body, it's a filtrate of blood. So this filtrate of blood is protein-free, just because the proteins are too big. So water, any small solutes are in the water, so that's why sweat is salty. It's going to stay in the sweat. So blood is filtered in the sweat glands, and then the watery portion that's still there, blood vessels are still stuck in your capillaries. That's what's going to be excreted out of your body. Helps with our acid mantle, so sweat and oil that help to create that acid mantle to inhibit bacterial growth. And then you have two different types of sweat. You have insensible perspiration, which is our normal sweat. You don't actually feel the wetness. This is just our body's normal perspiration that you're just going to make. Diaphoresis is the wet sweat. So this is your body's hot. You need to cool down, and so that's the sweat you actually can feel. Okay, sebaceous gland, those are the oil ones. I'm going to ignore that, keep going. That's not on the study guide. Cereminus, nope, keep going. So it's your earwax mammary glands. So these are what's going to produce milk, particularly the acini glands that are inside the mammary glands are making the milk. These glands only develop during pregnancy, and they are a type of modified apocrine sweat glands. So our mammary glands occur on the mammary ridges or midline, so the nipples for that. So that duct system, that exocrine gland type of secretion occurs on the mammary line. So here we have this dog, dirty little baby puppies. Nipples are all along that mammary line or mammary ridge. For humans, same concept. So whatever reason with apes, and I think partially just because we don't have as many children anymore, so we only have two. If someone has a third nipple, it would still be on that mammary ridge. If they say, oh, this is my third nipple and it's somewhere off from that, it's really just because it's possibly like a mole or something. Okay. Vitamin D, calcium burns. Okay, cool. Okay, let's skip through this. So on the study guide, and I guess I must have did some rearranging or just forgot to take this off. But anyway, the second to last question on chapter 6 has to deal with vitamin D. So just as a reminder, just so if you're going along with their study guide, vitamin D helps to regulate calcium levels. Okay. Moving on to the last bit, which is burns. So we have burns, which are the leading cause of accidental death. Usually it's because of fluid loss, since we've lost the protective skin layer, so particularly that stratum granosum layer that would have waterproofed and kept our body from losing water. Infection, since we don't have that protective layer keeping pathogens from coming in. And then our eschar, which is the burn tissue, or any kind of damaged tissue is going to release toxic chemicals, and so you release a bunch of that and you can also cause death. Okay, this is usually also removed during the treatment of it. Okay, so 3 different types of burn based on how deep the tissue is burned. So 1st degree burn is just your epidermis. Your 2nd degree burn, it must be on the slide. Yeah. 2nd degree burn goes through your epidermis and into the dermis. And a 3rd degree goes all the way through your epidermis and all the way through your dermis tissue. So you have no skin left at all. And this is the type of burn that's going to require a skin graft. So with all of them, and just a picture version of the different layers. So we levels, 1st degree, epidermis, 2nd degree, through our epidermis and part of the dermis, 3rd degree, through your epidermis and all the way through your dermis tissue. So we're down to the hypodermis, no more skin left. Okay, so treatment. All of these types of burns are going to require some kind of bandaging, infection protection, antibiotics, that kind of stuff. 3rd degree is where you're going to have a skin graft. So this is where you're basically having to replace the skin. And there's 3 different ways that we do that. We can either take skin from your body and put it over that burn. So that's an autograft. So they're going to take all of the epidermis and part of the dermis. So that allows your body to still heal itself in the part that you're getting that sample from, and then place it on your skin. Your skin should be happy with it. It won't reject it. Isograft from an identical twin, that's also not going to be rejected. Other types of grafts, we have temporary ones, and this is because the immune system is going to reject it because the DNA is not the same, and so that glycocalyx is not the same, and so the immune system is going to attack it. We just need it long enough there underneath those bandages just to help your body heal and not lose water. So homograft from another person, heterograft from another species, particularly they're using fish for this. I actually saw a study where they also added stem cells, and that actually helped even further the healing process using the fish skin. Afterbirth can be used as a temporary graft, as well as artificial skin made of silicone and collagen, and I think I've also seen where they've used stem cells for that one as well. Okay, and that is the end of your study guide. And again, ask me questions if you have it. Make sure you fill out your study guide. And again, your study guide is what's on the test. Sometimes I flip questions. So what was the answer is now the question on the exam, but it is going to help you on that exam. See you later.